The horrors at Fort Hood show the unpleasant side of life in the U.S. military. Fort Hood, one of the U.S. Army's main military bases. It is located near the city of Killeen, Texas. Fort Hood is the most populous U.S. military base in the world. The hilly, desolate, semi-arid terrain is ideal for multifaceted training and testing of military units and individuals. It is the Army's premier heavy weapons training and deployment facility. Hello, this is Defunct City. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to click on the bell so you don't miss new episodes and stay informed. Fort Hood officials report that 28 soldiers died in accidents of suicide, homicide, and illness in the year 2020. Another soldier died in Iraq. Local news outlets in Texas report that 8 soldiers died from various accidents. 8 died by suicide. Some died of illness and went missing, and 5 unexplained deaths remain under review. 163 deaths have been reported at Fort Hood since 2016, 73 of which have been ruled suicides. Base Sexual Assault Prevention Officer Sergeant First Class Gregory McQueen was demoted to E1 and dishonorably discharged in March of 2015 on charges of soliciting prostitution from base personnel. The murdered Gregory Morales was 24 years old when he went missing in 2019. His remains were discovered in June of 2021 during the Guillen search. His death is still under investigation. His AWOL status was overturned only after an autopsy showed that he had been dead since his disappearance, Morales' mother Army told The Times. Exactly 1 year after Morales went missing, 23-year-old Sergeant Male. His good friend says he was humiliated after he reported being sexually abused by a superior officer. A week later he was found hanged. He did not leave a suicide note. His death is under investigation. The rape and murder of Vanessa Guillen in April of 1920 brought national attention to the Fort Hood base and revealed the horrific statistics of sexual harassment in the U.S. military. The Hispanic caucus of the Texas Senate is calling on Congress to investigate Fort Hood, noting that more than a third of the women on the base say they have been sexually harassed. The Army says it is conducting its own internal investigation into Vanessa Guillen, but all signs point to a cover-up. Until the investigation and prosecution process is taken out of the Army's control, the cultural change needed to adequately address sexual assault and unsafe conditions will not be considered. Vanessa Guillen, a Houston native who enlisted in the military in 2018, went missing after disappearing from the base where she was serving with the 3rd Cavalry Regiment as a small arms and artillery repairman on the 22nd of April 2020. A subsequent investigation into her disappearance revealed that Robinson, who worked in another armory, was the last person to see Guillen alive. Guillen went missing on the 22nd of April, 2020. She was last seen at 13 o'clock in the afternoon in the parking lot at the headquarters of our Regimental Engineer Squadron, 3rd Cavalry Regiment. The next day General Scott Eflin, Deputy Commander of the 3rd Corps, made a statement. "I ask for your help in having someone somewhere with the information we need to bring home to Vanessa," he said. "As we all grieve the loss of one soldier, there are more soldiers missing before Vanessa. Someone can help us not grieve for another. If you have information on Vanessa Guillen's whereabouts, please call. We will not leave this case until we are successful. And with your help, we can make it happen a lot sooner." Her car keys, barracks key, ID card and wallet were found in the armory where she had worked earlier that day, but her cell phone was not found. "I have opened an investigation into information provided by Guillen's family that Vanessa Guillen had been harassed prior to her disappearance," said 3rd Cavalry Regiment Commander Colonel Ralph Overland. "I take allegations of sexual harassment very seriously, and we are conducting a thorough investigation." Guillen's disappearance drew national attention only after celebrities, including Salma Hayek, brought attention to the incident. Claims by her family and their lawyer that Guillen had been sexually assaulted by Fort Hood before her abduction brought additional attention to the case. At some point, the girl confessed to her two sisters Lupe and Myra about the Fort Hood problem. 20-year-old Guillen told her family that she was being abused by her supervisors and was afraid to report the incidents because of possible retaliation. Attorney Natalie Havim said she discovered at least 2 alleged incidents of sexual abuse. A supervisor came to Vanessa taking a shower and raped her in the gunroom. Havim said she was worried about how the case might end. She said Vanessa told loved ones that she didn't want to report the sexual harassment. For fear of retaliation, she was afraid to report it. She told her friends and family. Vanessa even reported it to other soldiers on the base, but she didn't want to make an official report because she was afraid of retaliation and being blacklisted. She, like most victims, simply tried to handle it herself. An investigation led by General John Murray, head of Future Army Command, concluded that Guillen had been sexually harassed by other soldiers and officers. According to some reports, she had been gang raped. According to the report summary, on the morning of the murder, Guillen had 2 tasks: to inspect and repair broken equipment in one armory, and to visually check the serial number of the machine gun for which she had come to the armory, where Robinson worked. While at work on April 22, Guillen was contacted by technician Aaron David Robinson via text message to give her paperwork regarding the machine gun to be repaired. At about 10:15 in the morning, Guillen went to the second armory to check the serial number. This was the last of the girls' known activities. By 8 o'clock in the evening, the girls' friends at the base were getting worried. The staff officer on duty that night was notified that the first search party of 6 soldiers was searching for Vanessa from 20:15 in the evening until 2:25 the next morning. The search of the base resumed several hours later, and by 8:30 in the morning the top brass were engaged. Officials identified 2 suspects connected to the disappearance of the Fort Hood soldier, Vanessa Guillen. Investigators spoke to 2 witnesses who saw Robinson leave his work area on April 22 with a large box that looked very heavy and placed the box in his car before driving away. Robinson consented to the tracking of his cell phone records. Court documents alleged that both Aguilar and Robinson lied to police about what happened, and cell phone evidence revealed inconsistencies in their stories. Investigators questioned Aguilar twice. She told investigators that on the night of the 22nd of April they had driven to Belton, Texas, to look at the stars on the banks of the Lion River, 32 miles from the ill-fated fort. According to court documents, Robinson's cell phone geolocation records confirmed Aguilar's story. A couple of weeks later, investigators questioned the girl again because they had more information pointing to her involvement. And she allegedly confessed that Robinson had told her that he had beaten Guillen to death with a hammer in the gunroom. Then he placed the woman's body in a box, transferred it to his car, and drove it to the gas station where Aguilar worked. The girl told authorities that the 2 of them removed the body, dismembered it with an axe and knife, and buried her body parts in 3 separate pits. Robinson was charged with murder. After obtaining additional information, agents discovered what were described as partial human remains on June 30. After analysis by a forensic anthropologist, the remains were reportedly found within walking distance of where investigators on June 19 had discovered the remains of Private Gregory Vettel Morales, who had disappeared a year earlier. The discovery came on the same day that members of Guillen's family announced they were seeking a congressional investigation into her disappearance. The military said Robinson had escaped from custody and then shot himself when he was apprehended again. Before officials could question him, the soldiers guarding the detainee received official letters of reprimand. Authorities have not disclosed a motive for the killing. Aguilar is in custody at the Bell County Jail and is charged with conspiracy to tamper with evidence. Upon conviction, she faces up to 20 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. On March 15, Aguilar's attorneys asked a federal judge to dismiss all charges against her. The indictment in this case is shocking and lacks factual details from which the girl could have been informed of the charges against her, the statement said. The defendant also asked the judge to throw out her confession, arguing that it had been obtained illegally because the investigators had not acquainted her with her rights. The motion was to be decided at the end of August of the year 2020. Attorney Natalia Havim, who represented the Guillen family last year, said Wednesday on behalf of the Guillens that Aguilar's attempts to get the charges dropped were an abuse of the legal system, a misuse of taxpayer money, and a general abuse of the court's limited resources. "We are willing to give Aguilar her confession back if she can get Vanessa back," Havim said. An independent panel has been appointed to conduct its own investigation. But it is important to note that this independent panel was appointed by the Army, and they have a combined 75 years of experience in the armed forces and law enforcement. The investigation, led by General John Murray, the future head of Army Command, concluded that Guillen had been sexually harassed by other service members, an accusation that base commanders denied for a year. Major General Gene Lebbeef, Chief of Staff of the 1st Command, told reporters in March of 2021 that the soldier who had harassed her was among those who had been disciplined. He declined to identify the man, but said it was not Robinson. The family identified the soldier who raped her as Giovanni Rivera. The documents say the investigator found no credible evidence that Robinson sexually harassed Guillen or that they had any relationship outside of their jobs. And he found no motive for the murder. Instead, it says that Robinson sexually harassed another soldier. If you can't say why he killed her, you can't say he didn't sexually harass her, family lawyer Natalie Hyam told the Associated Press on Friday. The Army's appalling response to her disappearance speaks for itself. 2 months after her disappearance, the country still did not know her name. This caused the family, the community, and the nation to lose confidence in Fort Hood. The Guillen family created social media accounts on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to draw attention to Vanessa's disappearance. Command silence on crimes, sexual assault in the military, and to raise money for attorneys. An independent review panel set up to study problems at the base last December concluded that military leaders at the base were not doing enough to address high rates of violence, sexual assault, harassment, alcoholism, drug use, and other problems. The panel's chairman told members of Congress at a hearing earlier this year that the base's leadership was focused on military readiness and completely neglected the sexual violence prevention program. As a result, he said, lower-level unit commanders discouraged troops from reporting assaults, covered up crimes, or were perpetrators themselves. They also found that the Army Office of Criminal Investigation was understaffed, overstaffed, and had inexperienced investigators. The investigation also found that Guillen's disappearance highlighted problems and ambiguities in Army reports about absence without leave or AWOL. Typically, a soldier was considered AWOL after 24 hours a night without a report during report generation, the report said. Guillen technically fit into this category, even though officials almost immediately believed her absence was not voluntary. Guillen was AWOL from April 24 to June 30, the day her remains were found. The military idea, the symbol of a single united force, is central to the myth of American exceptionalism. Events regarded as military failures threaten the integrity of American exceptionalism by destroying the military idea and covering it up in every way possible. On September 1, 2020, Army leadership removed Major General Scott Efland, commander of Fort Hood, and barred him from moving to a planned post at another base in Texas after numerous incidents of sexual assault and soldier deaths under his command. But that doesn't mean Efland will be removed from Fort Hood entirely. Instead, He will remain at the base with a demotion to deputy commander, reinforcing the toxic environment at the base that festered under his command. The prime suspect connected to Guillen's murder committed suicide before he was arrested, depriving her family of the chance to learn the truth. That's why soldiers like Vanessa Guillen were afraid to report sexual abuse. And the reason the late Sergeant Fernandez was worried about his safety after he reported the rape, attorney Natalie Havim said. There were a lot of irregularities in Vanessa's case. We are upset that the names of the soldiers who tortured Vanessa are not listed. It is heartbreaking and upsetting for all of us, the family stated. Vanessa had dreamed of joining the military since she was 10 years old. She signed a contract to defend and serve her country. But look what they did to her. Guillen's death sparked a movement on social media. Former and current service members who spoke out about sexual abuse and harassment on military bases. Vanessa Guillen's tragedy shocked the nation, but it is only one of 1,000 such circumstances.